I never thought I'd save the man who ruined my life, but there I was, gun in hand, finger trembling on the trigger as his would-be assassin lunged from the shadows. The shot rang out like a thunderclap in that sterile boardroom, shattering the glass of the skyscraper window behind him, and in that frozen instant, I realized I'd just traded my anonymity for his pulse, exposing the ghost I'd buried for 8 long years. What no one knew, not even him, was that the bullet I fired wasn't just for survival. It was the first crack in the revenge I'd been architecting since the day he framed me for his sins, leaving me to rot in a federal prison while he climbed higher on my broken back. The rain hammered Chicago like it had a personal grudge that night, turning the Loop into a slick, neon-veined labyrinth. I huddled under the awning of a corner bodega on Wabash, collar up against the wind whipping off Lake Michigan, my breath fogging the air as I watched the revolving doors of the Equitable Tower spit out suits like discarded cigarette butts. It was pushing 11 p.m., the kind of hour when the city's pulse slows to a predatory throb, and I was here for one reason: to end it. Not with a bang, not yet, but with the slow unraveling of threads I'd been pulling for months. My name's Margaret Hale, but in the underbelly of this town, the one that doesn't make the sun times, I go by Ghost. It's fitting, because that's what I've been since Victor Lang, my former boss at Apex Financial, decided my loyalty was a punchline in his game of corporate chess. 8 years ago, I was his golden girl. Fresh out of Northwestern with an MBA that still smelled like new leather, I landed at Apex as a junior analyst, wide-eyed and hungry for the American dream they sold us in those glossy brochures. Victor was the kingpin, mid-40s, silver fox charm with a jawline that could cut glass, the kind of guy who quoted Sun Tzu in board meetings and betted interns like it was a performance bonus. He took me under his wing, or so I thought. "Maggie," he'd say, leaning over my desk with that cologne that screamed old money, "you're not just crunching numbers. You're building empires." I ate it up. Worked 80-hour weeks, pulled all-nighters auditing offshore accounts that smelled fishy even to my green nose. And when the feds came knocking about the $12 million slush fund siphoned to Cayman shells, money Victor used to pad his yacht fund, I didn't hesitate. He swore it was a glitch, a rival smear, and that I'd be protected. "Take the fall, kid. I'll make you whole." Famous last words. They slapped me with wire fraud and money laundering. 5 years in Alderson Federal, the camp cupcake they called it, but it felt like hell's antechamber. No visitors after the first month. My folks back in Gary disowned me for the shame, called me a disgrace to the steel mill legacy. Victor? He testified against me in exchange for immunity, painted me as the mastermind, the ambitious bitch who seduced him for access codes. The jury bought it. America loves a villainess. I got out in 3 with good behavior, but the scarlet letter stuck. No job offers, no references, just a rap sheet that followed me like a bad debt. That's when Ghost was born. In the dim-lit libraries of prison, I taught myself code, Python, blockchain tracing, the dark web's undercurrents. By release, I was freelancing for whistleblowers, exposing corporate rot from the shadows. My secret life, a ghost in the machine, haunting the powerful from anonymous VPNs in dingy motels. Now, here I was, tailing Victor like a bad habit. He'd risen phoenix like post-scandal, snagging the CEO spot at Helix Ventures, a VC firm flush with tech darlings. Word on the street, my street, the encrypted forums where fixers trade whispers, was that he'd crossed the wrong syndicate. Russian oligarch money, laundered through crypto startups, and now the wolves were circling. I could have let them have him. Hell, part of me prayed for it. But revenge isn't a light switch. It's a fuse, slow burning, and mine had been lit the day I signed that plea deal. I wanted him alive, broken, begging. So I shadowed him from the Gold Coast Gala where he'd been schmoozing donors, his Armani tuxedo gleaming under chandeliers, to this late-night meeting in his penthouse office. The elevator dinged like a death knell, and I slipped in behind a janitor cart, heart pounding against my ribs. Floor 47, the executive suite, all glass walls and minimalist chic, overlooking the churning black expanse of the lake. Voices filtered through the frosted partition, Victor's, smooth as bourbon, laced with that fake Midwestern drawl he affected for clients. Ivan, come on, the returns are locked in. 20% on the Solana pivot alone. A grunt, low and guttural, then the scrape of a chair. I edged closer, phone in pocket recording every syllable, my other hand brushing the Glock tucked in my waistband. It wasn't loaded, not for him, not yet. But contingencies. The door to the boardroom cracked open, spilling golden light, and I caught a glimpse. Victor, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, facing a slab of a man in an ill-fitting suit, tattooed knuckles drumming the table. Ivan, no doubt. The air thickened with menace, the kind that precedes a shakedown. You think we trust your American fairy tales, Lang? The blockchain trace leads back to your shell. We lose, Riga deal, you pay. Victor's laugh was forced, a bark. Threats? In my house. That's when Ivan moved, fluid, lethal, pulling a silenced Beretta from his coat like it was an extension of his arm. Time dilated. Victor stumbled back, eyes wide with the animal panic of the cornered elite. And me? I didn't think. I burst through, Glock raised, barking. Chicago PD? Drop it. Lies, all of it, but Ivan hesitated, just a beat, and that's when I fired. The bullet, real this time, chambered for the bluff, whistled past Victor's ear, shattering the window in a cascade of safety glass. Ivan spun, firing wild, the suppressor coughing like a tubercular lung. I dove behind the credenza, shards biting my palms, Victor scrambling under the table like the rat he was. Chaos erupted, alarms wailing, sprinklers hissing to life, soaking us in a chemical mist. Ivan bolted for the fire exit, but I was faster, tackling him in the hallway, knee to his spine, Glock to his temple. Tell your boss the ghost says hello. He snarled something in Russian, but the zip ties from my kit held. By the time security swarmed, I was gone, slipped into the service stairs, heart jackhammering. Victor's stunned face burned into my retinas. I made it to my bolt hole in Pilsen, a third-floor walk-up above a taqueria that reeked of cumin and regret before the shakes hit. The room was a fortress of paranoia. Blackout curtains, Faraday cage for my rig, walls papered in printouts of Victor's digital footprints. I stripped off the wet jacket, blood from a graze on my forearm mixing with rain, and collapsed onto the futon. What the hell had I done? Saving him wasn't the plan. The plan was exposure. Leak the Ivan tapes to the SEC, watch his empire crumble brick by brick. But instinct, damn it, had kicked in. The same blind loyalty that got me caged. Or was it something darker? The need to be the one who wields the knife, not watch from afar. My phone buzzed. Burner model, unknown number. Text, boardroom.
Now.
We need to talk.
Christ.
I should have ghosted it, deleted the SIM, vanished into the ether. But curiosity, that old devil, had me hailing a lift back to the tower. The lobby was a circus, cops milling, Victor holding court with detectives, his shirt transparent from the sprinklers, clinging to a chest that spoke of too many pelotons and not enough soul. He spotted me across the marble expanse, eyes narrowing like he was sighting prey. You, he mouthed, then waved off the badges with a practiced smile. My savior. Come up. The private elevator ride was suffocating, him dabbing at a cut on his forehead with a monogrammed hanky, me silent, pulse sinking with the floor counter. Penthouse level, his domain, all leather and lacquer, a wet bar stocked with single malts that could have bought my freedom. He poured 2 glasses, neat, no ice, handed me one with a grin that didn't reach his eyes.
Magihale.
The ghost returns. What the fuck was that down there? I sipped, the scotch burning a path to my gut, buying time. Heard you were in deep. Thought I'd collect on that old debt. Lie layered on lie, but his laugh was genuine this time, bitter-edged. Debt? Jesus, after what we went through? You vanish for years. Pop up as some vigilante cop? Spill it. That's when it cracked. The floodgates. I set the glass down, hard enough to chip the rim. Vigilante? Try the woman you framed, Victor. The one who did your dirty work, took the bullet, figuratively, for your Cayman slush. 5 years, Vic. 5 years of chow hall fights and mandatory therapy circles where they called me reformed white-collar trash. And you testified, remember? Said I seduced you, hacked the ledgers myself. Immunity bought you a corner office. It bought me a number. His face drained, the color leaching like bad dye. He sank into the Eames chair, fingers steepled, that calculating glint flickering back. Maggie. I had no choice. The feds had tapes, your voice on the calls, authorizing the transfers. It was you or both of us. Bullshit, and we both knew it. I'd authorized Jack. He'd fed me the scripts, coached every keystroke. But the twist of the knife. And the kid? You remember Sarah? My sister? The one who OD'd while I was inside because no one was there to pull her out of that Wicker Park squat? That's on you too. He flinched, visibly, and for a heartbeat, I saw it. Regret or the ghost of it. I sent money, anonymously, to her fund after. Lies again, but it stung. Sarah's face, gaunt in the obituary photo I'd pinned to my corkboard, the one motivator in those bleach-scented cells. I'd built ghost around her memory, exposing the pharma execs who flooded the streets with fentanyl-laced oxy, the bankers who foreclosed on grieving families. Victor was the apex predator, the one who'd taught me the game's cruelty. But he wasn't done. Leaning forward, voice dropping to that conspiratorial timbre. Look, whatever grudge you've nursed, tonight changes things. Ivan's crew, they're after more than me. The whole board's in the ledger. Help me bury this, and I'll clear your name. Full exoneration, my testimony. The works. We rebuild Apex together. Partners.
Partners.
The word hung like smoke, tempting, toxic. I wanted to laugh, to spit in his scotch. Instead, I nodded, slow, the hook setting deep. Partners, I echoed, and in that moment, the fuse burned hotter. Revenge wasn't exposure anymore, it was infiltration. I'd play his game, from the inside, until the boardroom became his grave. The weeks blurred into a high-wire act, Victor pulling me into the Helix fold as his security consultant. A euphemism for the fixer he'd always needed. Mornings started with black coffee in his lakeside condo, poring over encrypted drives, me tracing Ivan's blockchain ghosts while he paced, barking orders into his AirPods. Maggie, you're a wizard with this shit. Remember that time in 16, the Dubai pivot? You saved my ass then too. Flattery, laced with nostalgia, like we were old war buddies, not jailer and inmate. I smiled through it, fingers flying over keys, but my real work happened in the dead of night, siphoning files to my offshore server, planting digital breadcrumbs that led straight to his doorstep. Helix was a viper's nest, all glass atriums and open-plan pods buzzing with millennial hustlers chasing unicorn valuations. I fit in seamlessly. Tailored blazers over tactical boots, my ghost alias buried under a LinkedIn facade of reformed analyst. Colleagues whispered, Lang's mystery woman. Heard she did time. It rankled, but I used it, cultivated the outsider aura. Enter Elena Voss, Victor's right hand now, a shark in Louboutins with a Wharton pedigree and eyes like polished obsidian. She hated me on sight, territorial, sensing the shift in power. Victor's pet project, she'd sneer in the ladies' lounge, reapplying lipstick like war paint. Little did she know I was the termite in the foundation. The betrayal deepened in layers. One night, post a venture summit in Napa, private jet, view flowing like water. Victor cornered me in the vineyard shadows. Moonlight silvered the cab rose, air thick with earth and deceit. I never stopped thinking about you, Mags. That plea, it gutted me. His hand on my arm, warm, insistent, the old seduction playbook. I let him kiss me, tasted the whiskey and lies, my mind cataloging escape routes. It wasn't desire, it was data. Access to his phone passcode, whispered in the afterglow. By dawn, I had it. Text to Elena, plotting my phase-out, once the Ivan mess cleared. She's a liability. Loose ends from the old days. And worse, proof he'd known about Sarah's spiral, ignored my collect calls from lockup. Let her sink. Teaches loyalty. Rage crystallized then, sharp as shattered glass. I accelerated the timeline. Leaks to ProPublica, anonymized docs showing Helix's ties to Ivan's arms smuggling ring, funneled through green energy startups. The press ate it up. VC firms' dark underbelly. Stocks dipped 15%. Board meetings turned bloodless coups. Victor leaned harder on me, eyes hollowing, paranoia etching lines around his mouth. "You're the only one I trust, Maggie." Elena's gunning for my chair.
Trust.
The word was a joke, but I played along, feeding him half-truths, watching him unravel. The pivot came mid-October, a crisp, windy city afternoon with leaves scuttling like conspirators. Elena summoned me to her corner office, floor-to-ceiling views of the Sears Tower mocking my climb. She was poised, legs crossed, a dossier splayed on the desk, my Alderson mugshot, Ghost Forum screenshots, even a grainy CCTV still from the boardroom shootout. "Impressive resume, Margaret. But Victor's blind spot. He thinks you're redemption. I see liability." Her smile was a scalpel. "Join me. We oust him together. 50-50 split on the cleanup fund." Temptation slithered in, serpentine. Elena wasn't innocent. Her emails I'd hacked showed her skimming 10% off Ivan's wires, funding a Hamptons hideaway. But allying with her? It'd split the revenge, dilute the purity.
No.
I needed Victor isolated, Elena as collateral. "What's in it for me?" I asked, voice steady. She slid a contract across, gold embossed. "Immunity. And a corner office of your own." I signed, the pen heavy as lead, and walked out with her keycard cloned in my pocket. That night, in the Pilsen lair, I wove the web, forged transfers pinning Elena's skim on Victor, timed leaks to the FBI tip line. By week's end, feds raided Helix at dawn, choppers thumping like war drums, agents in tack vests swarming the lobby. Victor called me from the panic room, voice cracking over the secure line. "Maggie, it's you, isn't it? The leaks."
God, why?
"Because you taught me, Vic," I whispered, the line hissing static. "Empires fall from within." He begged, sobs really, the mighty reduced to mucus. "I loved you. In my way."
Clear my name.
"Please."
Loved.
The word hung, absurd, a final betrayal. I hung up, deleted the trace, and watched the news feeds explode. CEO Lang, Voss detained in massive fraud probe. But revenge is a hollow fruit, and mine soured fast. Hiding in a no-tell on division, I monitored the fallout. Victor cut a deal, flipping on Elena for reduced time. Irony's bitter wink. She got 20 years, no immunity for the Queen's snake. He walked with house arrest, a slap on the wrist, already lawyering up for a book deal. From prison to pinnacle, my betrayal and redemption. My name? Redacted, but the whispers spread. Ghost unmasked, they said on the dark nets. Fed circling. The knock came at 2 a.m., not the door, my conscience or what was left. I cracked the laptop, pulled up the old Apex files, the ones I'd buried deepest. Not the fraud, the secret, the miscarriage. Victor's unknowingly. That Napa night 8 years back, before the fall, when partners meant tangled sheets in his Gold Coast penthouse. I'd terminated quietly, prison-bound and broken, told no one. But in the leaks, I'd included a stray medical record, mine anonymized, but the dates. They aligned. His empire, his child, ghosted by his hand. Twist of the knife reversed. Now he knew, or would, when the memoir dropped. Was it justice? Or cruelty? Punishing the unborn for his sins? I fled south, to the bayous of Louisiana, a new alias simmering in code. Victor's last text before I torched the burner. "Maggie, the baby? Our baby? God, forgive me." No reply. Forgiveness was for the living. I was ghost, adrift in the machine. The road unspooled under tires worn to whispers, 55 bleeding into the Delta's humid embrace, where cypress sneeze clawed at the sky like drowned fingers. New Orleans hummed in the distance, jazz bleeding from Bourbon Street pores, a siren's call to reinvention. But reinvention was a lie I'd told myself too many times. First post-Alderson, scraping by as a barista in Ridgetown, slinging lattes to the very yuppies whose 401k I'd once audited. Then as Ghost, the digital phantom, untouchable until Victor's salvation pulled me into the light. Now, with the Fed's net tightening, subpoenas pinging my dead drops, Elena's lawyers sniffing for accomplices, I was running on fumes, both literal and existential. The Acura's dash clock blinked 3:17 a.m., fuel light winking like a co-conspirator, and I pulled into a Shell station on the outskirts of Hammond, Louisiana, the kind of place where the pumps smelled of diesel and despair, and the clerk watches you like you're auditioning for a lineup. I filled the tank, the nozzles click echoing my fractured thoughts, and that's when the burner buzzed back to life, a ghost in my pocket, insistent. Unknown number, but the area code screamed Chicago. 312, the loop's unyielding grip. Text: Maggie, it's Elena. From County. We need to talk. Your place saved my ass. Victor's flipping on ghosts now. Coordinates attached. Coordinates? A dingy po' joint in the French Quarter, tomorrow noon. Trap or truce? My gut twisted, the same instinct that saved Victor now screaming flight. But curiosity, that relentless bitch, won. I replied, solo. No tals. Her ping back. Promise. Bring the files. Dawn broke sluggish over the bayou, mist coiling like cigarette smoke, and I ditched the Acura in a sugarcane field, hot-wiring a rusted Chevy pickup from a derelict barn, skills from prison shop class, repurposed for survival. The drive to NOLA was a fever dream. Radio spitting Zydeco static, my mind replaying the memoir leak I'd orchestrated last week. Victor's ghostwriter had shopped chapters to Vanity Fair, The Unborn Heir, A CEO's Secret Shame, dates matching my clinic visit, the miscarriage pinned as tragic collateral of his ambition. I'd meant it as the final gut punch, but now it felt like overkill, a cruelty that mirrored his. Was I the villain in my own script? The woman who'd framed the framer, only to birth a cycle of pain? The po' spot was a hole in the wall called Le Bayou Bite, formica counters scarred like old scars, ceiling fans stirring air thick with fry oil and regret. Elena waited in a corner booth, handcuffed, tan fading on her wrists, her power suit swapped for jeans and a Saints hoodie, disguise or defeat. She looked smaller without the Louboutins, eyes darting to the door as I slid in opposite, Glock heavy in my messenger bag. Coffee, she asked, voice stripped of venom, sliding a styrofoam cup my way. Black, no sugar, just how I'd taken it at Apex, a detail that chilled. You set me up, I said flat, no preamble. No, House County, bullshit. She nodded, slow, tracing the cup's rim.
Fair.
But Victor? He's the devil we both dance with. His deal with the feds, they're hunting Ghost. Your Ghost. I gave them crumbs, a forum handle, an IP crumb from Helix. Enough to smoke you out. Betrayal's echo. Round 2. But her eyes held no triumph, just the hollow of a survivor bargaining scraps. Why warn me? She leaned in, voice dropping to a conspirator's hush. Because you're not the monster he painted. And neither am I, not entirely. That skim? It was for my brother, leukemia bills stacking like Jenga. Victor knew, greenlit it as discretionary. Then sold me out when the heat came. Sympathy? Or sympathy's mask? I probed. And the Victor pitch? Real or bait? A shrug, weary. Half. I wanted his chair, yeah. But you lit the match. Now he's writing checks with our blood. The files she slid across were gold. Victor's immunity transcript, redacted names filled in, mine, hers, even Sarah's, twisted into collateral addict for narrative punch. And the kicker, a side deal with Ivan's remnant crew, post-raid. Victor trading Helix scraps for protection, a new slush in Miami shells. He's rebuilding, Elena whispered. On our graves. We team up one last con. Expose the post-prison pivot. You hack the Miami ledgers. I feed the tip to my DOJ contact. We walk clean. Team up. The word soured on my tongue, a remix of Victor's partner's lie. But the alternative? Solo run. Forever shadowed. Ghost fading to irrelevance. Or worse, Victor's memoir dropping, painting me as the baby-killing harpy, the vengeful ex who miscarried Malice. "What's the split?" I asked, echoing her old pitch. She smiled, faint, genuine. 50-50. And closure. We shook on it over shrimp remoulade, the deal sealed in salt and spice, and for the first time in years, the weight lifted a fraction. Back in the pickup, barreling toward a crash pad in the Marigny, I fired up the rig, VPN layered triple thick, cracking Miami's blockchain like eggshells. Elena's contact checked out, ex-prosecutor turned PI, hungry for a scalp. The hack yielded rivers of data. Transfers to Shellcore named after aborted dreams. Hale Holdings, a sick joke. Victor's fingerprints everywhere, laundering Ivan's blood money into boutique hotels and political PACs. The drop was set for a week later. All Saints' Eve in the quarter, masks and revelry cloaking our move. I posed as a tarot reader in Jackson Square, Elena as the mark, passing a thumb drive in a sleight of hand under the moonlight. Her DOJ whisper bit hard, raid warrants printing before the confetti cleared. Victor's Miami empire crumbled overnight. Arrest at dawn. This time no immunity. Cameras flashing as they cuffed him on the yacht deck, salt spray mixing with his denials. But closure? It slipped like fog. Elena vanished post-drop, a note on my dash. "Thanks, Ghost. Use the clean slate." I chose Miami, new life. Selfish, but fair.
Me?
I drove north again, loop closing, but the twist lingered. Victor's trial footage hit the feeds. Him, gaunt in orange, pleading not guilty, then the breakdown on the stand. Margaret. She knew about the child. Used it against me. It was our baby, lost because of the stress I caused, but she weaponized it. The courtroom gasped, the press frenzy reignited. CEO's heartbreak, framed by phantom mother? Public opinion split like fault lines. Justice for Victor trending alongside Ghost Girl Hero. Op-eds dissecting my moral ambiguity. Victim turned vigilante, or vengeful specter haunting the innocent unborn. Protests outside the courthouse. One side with placards free Lang, witch hunt. The other, burn the patriarchy. Margaret's truth. I watched from a motel in Memphis, TV flickering blue on my face, the debate raging without me. Was I right? Wrong? The twist no one saw. In the hack's dregs, a file I'd missed, Victor's anonymous payments, not just to Sarah's fund, but to my Alderson commissary monthly, untraceable. Guilt money, perhaps. Or atonement's feeble stab. The bittersweet landed heavy. Revenge sated Victor's fall, but unearthed my own fractures. The child that might have been, the sister I couldn't save, the self I'd ghosted into oblivion. I torched the rig, scattered the ashes in the Mississippi's muddy churn, and boarded a Greyhound west. No more ghosts. Just Margaret Hale, unbound, chasing sunsets over the plains. America, vast and unforgiving, swallowed me whole. And in the quiet miles I wondered if the twist was that we'd all been ghosts, haunting each other to the end.